Hi, welcome to Dwindling DS Diva. My name is Amber, and this channel is going to be all about my journey with bariatric surgery. So, for this particular video, I'm just going to give you a little introduction to myself, some history about who I am, where I came from, what led me to the point that I am currently at now, and where I'm going to go from here. So, I was an average sized child growing up, and when I became a preteen, I decided to join athletics at my school. My school offered two different programs at the time. They had like the general physical education class that most people take, and then they had a special physical education class called athletics for people who generally were involved in sports like track, basketball. It was a lot more rigorous training than just the general physical education class, and I loved weightlifting. That was probably my favorite thing. I was very fit and muscular. I weighed in at 160 pounds, which seems like a lot for looking at the size that I was at the time, but I attribute that to muscle weighing more than fat. And then after that, my mother moved us from Houston, Texas to Iowa, and I wasn't in that class anymore, obviously, and I fell in with the wrong group of friends, went about route, and I began drinking every weekend, partying with these friends that I made. I was a smoker. I smoked since I was 14. It's terrible, I know. And I gained a little bit of weight. I was chubby and wasn't as fit anymore. And then in 2005, I got pregnant with my first child, and I put on a little bit of weight, a lot towards the end. My doctor thinks that I had gestational diabetes. I ended up having a 10-pound baby, and by the time I was done, I was about 230, 240 pounds. And I decided a couple years after that I wanted to better myself, and so I decided to go to college between 2007 and 2009. I was going for my LPN and my RN, and in my clinicals class, I did diabetes testing and tested my blood sugar, and it was like 350. It wasn't good. Basically diagnosed myself with type 2 diabetes, and I was devastated. It's a terrible disease, and unfortunately I was in denial, and I decided that I was going to pretend like it didn't happen and just forget about it. And I went on that way. My weight fluctuated up and down. So when I started college, I had dropped down to about 180. By the time I was done, I was probably about 220, and I ended up dropping out of college. I went through a lot of really hard and emotional things at the time, and life was not coming up, Amber. So I was really sad, and I remember one night in 2012, I was laying in bed crying, and I prayed, and I said, God, give me what I need, because I don't know what that is anymore. And that was a turning point for me in my life. I decided to change my entire life, and I quit partying and drinking on the weekends. I quit smoking, which is a really, really big deal. Like, anyone who quit smoking will tell you it is a really huge accomplishment. I was about a pack and a half a day smoker, a pack to a pack and a half, and anyone who quit smoking knows that is a really big deal. It is really hard. I am now about 8 years out from quitting smoking, and it was one of the best decisions that I have ever made in my entire life. But it didn't come without a price, if that makes sense. If you ever quit smoking, then you know that there's a really big oral fixation with smoking from this whole thing, and so you tend to replace that oral fixation with putting food in your mouth, which is never a good thing. And having that excess consumption of what my body needed also caused me to gain weight as well. And I went up to about 230 pounds. But all those life changes were amazing. I wouldn't take them back for anything. Shortly after I made all those changes, I met my husband. I really believe that if you want a certain type of lifestyle and you want to be with a certain quality of person, that you have to bring yourself up to meet that standard. And I remember when I was 17, I told my friend, one of those people that I was partying with, that this lifestyle was not gonna be my lifestyle forever. And I held true to that. We were married April 12th, 2013. And about a month later, on Mother's Day, I got pregnant with our child, my son. And because of my diabetes and knowing that I was diabetic, we went to see a doctor and talked to them about what steps to take for our child. And they put me on insulin because my diabetes it was bad. I hadn't been taking care of it, and my body just didn't want to do it anymore, I guess. And with pregnancy, it makes controlling blood sugars incredibly hard to begin with. Insulin is evil, and it causes you to gain weight. So, in addition to being pregnant, the insulin caused me to go up to around 250 pounds. And after my son was born, I wasn't very active. When I met my husband, I had moved from Iowa to Utah, and so I didn't have any friends. I didn't really know anyone. I was a brand new mom, and I wasn't doing the types of things after having my child that I should have been doing in order to lose that excess weight. And over the next few years, I probably went up to 280 pounds. I was continuing to take insulin dependent. I need it to regulate my blood sugars. And I started feeling really tired all the time. And I couldn't make it through the day without taking nappies. And it was getting to the point where my hair was falling out. Like, I would brush my hair and there'd be like big clumps of hair. And I knew something was really wrong. And so I went to the doctor and found out that I have hypothyroidism. And so I have the diabetes that's just taxing my body. I have the thyroid disease that's taxing my body. And all these things make me feel really awful and have no energy. And I wanted to improve my life even more than I already have. And so I started going to the gym in 2018, and I was doing aqua zumba, which was really fun, and I miss it for a lot of reasons. And I decided to really get real about my diabetes and start taking care of myself like I should be. And I was taking my diabetes medications before, but I wasn't taking them consistently like I should be. So I started to do that, and what's really evil about insulin is it's a vicious cycle. You need to take insulin in order to bring your blood sugar down, and insulin causes you to gain weight, which makes you need insulin, which makes you gain weight. It's a vicious cycle. So it's really hard to lose weight when you're taking insulin. And summer 2019, I had a really bad spinal injury. I decided to pick up my almost 6-year-old son. He said, "Mommy uppy," and I picked him up, and improper lifting techniques. And I ended up having an annular tear of my L4 and L5 vertebrae along with a bulged disc, which according to the spinal surgeon that I saw is a garden variety back injury. But because of my weight, my pain was very real. And it takes about 2 years for this type of injury to heal. We're about a year in right now. It is currently August the 2nd, 2020, amidst the COVID pandemic. I have been in self-isolation since March because of my comorbidities due to my weight and the high risk factors that go along with COVID-19. But I had decided to make this dedication to my diabetes and the insulin management very much priority in my life, which caused me to gain even more weight to where we are now. I had tried a lot of different diets. I even tried intermittent fasting to the point where I was only eating dinner and then I wouldn't eat again until the next day at dinner. And I was still not losing weight. I went to go see an endocrinologist because of my decision to really get a hold of my diabetes. And she explained to me why it was that nothing I was doing was working. And amidst our many different appointments, she had brought up the idea of having bariatric surgery. By 2019's end, I was almost 300 pounds. And insulin being the necessary evil that it is, I still take it. And the weight that I have now impacts every aspect of my life. It impacts everything that I do. And I want to get a hold of my health. I want to be able to stand again, because right now with my spinal injury and my weight, I can barely stand for more than 5 minutes. It hurts so much. And I want to be able to take my kids to the museum, to the zoo, play with them. I want to feel better. I want to feel more like myself. My personality and my characteristics that I had when I was fit and active is a completely different night and day version of the person that I am now. And I think that it's kind of an interesting perspective because I know what it's like to be on the other side of this. And the person that I am now is like a shadow of my former self. And I want to be that person again. I am currently 319 pounds. Again, still having to take insulin. I'm very scared that I will continue this uphill climb. And so I decided to start researching bariatric surgery. And I'm ready to make a change in my life. And during my research, I went to the grand old YouTube, and on YouTube the vertical gastric sleeve is very popular, so I did a lot of research on VSG, and I decided to go to my endocrinologist and tell her that I was interested in having the vertical gastric sleeve done and to write me a referral for bariatric surgery. And so this is going to be all about the steps that I have taken that have gotten me to getting bariatric surgery. And I need help, and that's okay. And So the very first thing I did was start to research the VSG surgery, or the vertical sleeve gastrotomy. And so the next video that I put out is going to be all about what I learned about VSG, and I'm very excited to start this journey with bariatric surgery, and I'm very excited to share it with you. I'm going to be laying out these videos in a format that I feel is most useful. I'm starting here in pre-op, and I'm going to talk about the different surgeries that I researched, and just kind of walk you through the entire process. I want this to be set up in a way that if bariatric surgery is something that you're considering doing, that we can do it together. We can walk through all the steps together, and you have someone with you who's doing it with you. And I'm really hoping that these videos will be good for someone else out there, help them to choose to change their life, not necessarily VSG, but to make the decision to better themselves, because we're all here together trying to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So I really hope that you follow along my journey, and we'll get to know me a little more and watch my progress and learn from some of the things that I've learned. And if you've already gone through this process, if you have things to share, I would greatly appreciate hearing them, because I'm a baby in this process, so I have a lot to learn. And thank you for watching this video, and I can't wait till we go farther along in this journey together.